this session, I wrote 57 words. For this session, I wrote 36 words. For this session, I wrote 125 words, and then my week's total word count is 460 words. I have been struggling this week with this pass of my manuscript. As you can see, I was writing very little, and what I managed to write was more difficult than it has been so far. But today I had a breakthrough, and I'm feeling that flow open once more. And in reviewing the week's overall segment, I am really happy with how things are coming together. For this session, I wrote 33 words. Halloween energy is very high in my neighborhood right now, but 'tis the season. I am waiting for my coffee, and then we're gonna talk about Rebecca. I finished this last night, and I have some thoughts. Coffee? And now time to discuss Rebecca. The last I left off on Rebecca, I was about halfway through, and this was before the ball. Things after the ball went so incredibly batshit, but in the best way. And overall, I absolutely enjoyed my experience reading Rebecca for the first time ever. From a craft standpoint, from a pacing standpoint, character development, and character authenticity, Daphne du Maurier she's a genius. This was so well done. Speaking of character authenticity, it at first seemed a little bit kind of out there for me, Mrs. Danvers' characterization and then even Rebecca's characterization. But after I thought about it, they make sense, and they're actually quite realistic. The main character, the protagonist, who remains anonymous through this entire book, unless I totally missed it in the beginning, but I don't remember her name being mentioned at all. But even her passive, reticent development, it doesn't stray too far from that core character, and so even when she has that moment standing up to Mrs. Danvers, it's not like anything like all of a sudden she's now this like very expressive and outgoing and assertive type of person. She stays really true to who she is in terms of the actions she takes in the subsequent mania, because it gets really crazy. In the last half of the book, I think the biggest thing that resonated with me was in seeing Mrs. Danvers' character as a representation of fear, and how we are actually in command or in charge of fear, and we can dismiss fear at will if we have courage enough. That said, if we let fear kind of have its way, it ends up burning our house. I understand how incredibly difficult it is to realize our fears and then confront them. And I think the tension between the protagonist and Mrs. Danvers really reflected that incredible challenge. Beyond that, I don't have much more to add to what I've already shared throughout my vlogs and my reading experience of this. The last half was definitely more of that action-packed, like things were moving and things were happening, so it wasn't so much the poetry of the writing, the presentation of the subtle nuances in the relationship dynamics and what the protagonist was seeing through the filter of her wild and youthful imagination. Anyways, that's all I have for Rebecca. I really enjoyed this overall, and it was the perfect time of the year to read it. Other than that, I'm going to end this vlog here. We're going to keep this short and simple, and then I will see you in the next one.